But I'm here to talk about why you should support Israel. Because anybody who thinks that Arabs hate us primarily because we support Israel is either stuck on stupid or looking for another specious justification for slandering this country, the United States of America, or slandering Israel. Or worse yet, they're seeking a way to excuse Islamic terror. You have to be armed when you go out there now. When you leave here, I'm asking you to do something different. Engage your neighbors. Engage the people that you meet in the supermarket. I always like to wear t-shirts and hats that bring about a lively conversation, like my hat that says infidel. And I walked down the aisle at Publix, and a woman in a burqa saw me coming. And I thought, well, this is the moment of truth, okay? Because according to what I've read, she basically has to kill me. As she approached, I looked at her and I said, hello. And she said, at least you know what you are. And I thought for a moment, yeah, she hates me because the United States is the great Satan and Israel is the little Satan. So if you're an American, the support of Israel is really the support of the United States of America first. Beyond all of that, I just love Israel. I don't have to make any excuses about my love for the place where every great thing that has happened in terms of civilization was birthed. I don't have to defend the right for them to exist. You have to defend it to your friends and neighbors if you haven't already. Now, there are 7 reasons. I said this on the air today. I'm going to tell you the 7 reasons that we support Israel so that you're not shy about saying it. The first reason is Israel has the right to the land because of all of the archaeological evidence. You don't have to go into a long philosophical, and I'm going to give you the philosophical argument too that Colonel West and Reverend Dozier made and everybody else. But the archaeological evidence proves the Jews have been in Israel since the beginning of its civilization. And you need to know that. You need to read about it. You need to Google it on the internet. You need to do something different than you've been doing because you haven't been getting the message out. The second proof that Israel has a right to that land is its historic right. History supports it totally and completely. This is not negotiable. That land has belonged to Israel from the time before the Roman Empire. The Romans conquered the land, although Jews were allowed to stay there. Don't forget, Jews lived there even after the Romans conquered it. And then, of course, here's the part of history that people don't like to talk about. The Turks took over about 700 years ago and ruled right up until World War I, when the land was conquered by our founding fathers, the British. The British government was very grateful to a Jewish chemist named Weizmann who discovered a way to manufacture nitroglycerin from materials that existed in England, and to the Jewish people who bankrolled all of that research. And so he promised to give the Jews back their homeland. And that's exactly how it went down. It's supported by historical evidence. I want the people to hear what Mark Twain had to say, Samuel Clemens. He took a tour of Palestine in 1867, because that's what they called Israel back then. And this is how he described that land. We're talking about Israel now, all right? He said, a desolate country whose soil is rich enough but is given over wholly to weeds. A silent, mournful expanse. We never saw a human being on the whole route. There was hardly a tree or a shrub anywhere. Even the olive and the cactus, those fast friends of a worthless soil, had almost deserted the country. Where was this great Palestinian nation? It didn't exist. It wasn't there. Palestinians were not there. Palestine was a region named by the Romans, but at the time it was under the control of Turkey. You need to know these things. You need to write them down on cards the way I've written them down, because you have to answer people's questions. The road leading from Gaza to the north was a summer track, suitable only for transportation by camels, okay, or carts. There were no orange groves, no orchids, there were no vineyards to be seen. Go to Israel today. Go look at that place today. That desolate, without even a cactus place. It's a garden in the middle of a desert. I dare you to fly over those deserts and see yet mile after mile of nothingness. And then all of a sudden, God made it flourish and bloom when it was given back to the people to whom it belongs. So history supports, that's the second reason. The third reason that the land belongs to Israel is the practical value of the Israelis being there. Israel today is a modern marvel of agriculture. I was just there. Lieutenant Colonel West has been there recently. A lot of people have traveled to Israel. And let me tell you, there's no place else on earth where a desert has become an orchid. There's nowhere else. And if the Arab nations were smart, they'd turn to Israel and its Jews and ask them, what do we do with our deserts? Because they haven't done squat in all these years. So Israel's third reason is the practical value of having a thriving agricultural society there. The fourth reason I believe that Israel has the right to the lands is on the grounds of humanitarian concerns. And I want you to listen to me, because this may be the most important thing that I say today. You see, there were 6 million Jews slaughtered in the last century. People that could have been my aunts and uncles. People that could have been mothers and fathers of the people who are here today. Because the Jews had no place to go. So if you want to have a homeland where those people who historically have been hit by pogroms, by holocausts, then you make sure that Israel stays intact on humanitarian grounds. That's what the liberals are always talking about. Let's be humanitarians. Keep a homeland for the Jews. We see what happens when there is none. The fifth reason that Israel ought to have the land is because, oh wow, they're a strategic ally of the United States of America. Israel is a deterrent, a detriment, an impediment to certain groups that want to destroy democracies all over the world. They keep them from coming to our door more often than not. Israel is our strategic ally. It's good to know that we have a friend in the Middle East on whom we can depend. Not some of these Middle Eastern countries that are so-called allies now, who, by the way, the minute 9/11 took place, all of their citizens jumped up on tables and cheered the death of Americans. So let me tell you, your only friend, and the reason you need to believe that Israel belongs there, is because they are our only strategic ally. And sixth reason that Israel, it's a roadblock to terrorism. I went there and I spent 6 days on a behind-the-scenes tour about how terrorism is combated in Israel. Were it not for the things they've designed, were it not for the protocols that they formulated, we would have even more problems here than you see today. Israel has cutting-edge technology. The only problem with America today is we have an administration who doesn't want to use it. We have an administration who thinks that if they were to take a stand against this radical foe, not just foe of Israel's, but foe of the great Satan, the United States of America, that they will lose favor in the courts of the world opinion. Well, guess what? They hate us anyway. I'm not interested in courting public opinion. I'm not interested in what people have to say about the United States of America. I'm not apologizing for the United States of America, and I'm not apologizing for Israel anymore. I stood in the middle of Sederot looking at the Katyusha rockets that were exploding every day. Does the world care that Jewish kids run into bomb shelters every 20 minutes? No, they never care about what happens to the Jews, so I'll be darned if I care about what they think about me. And the seventh and the most important reason why we ought to support Israel is because God said so. And I'm not ashamed to say it. Look it up in the book of Genesis. You heard somebody quote it, Genesis 13, 14 through 17. The Bible says, the Lord said to Abram, lift up now with your eyes and look from the place where you are northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see, to you I will give it, and to your seed forever. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it to thee. That's God talking. And if God said it, that settles it.